I believe that Hank's writing touches people because he tells the simple truth, and he doesn't need to embellish. He doesn't need to have pretense. He doesn't need to hide his scars and his warts and all the ugly things. He brings the essence of his experience in life together in words in a way that uh, speaks to every man or every person, especially people who are struggling. Well, everybody's struggling, yes, but I mean the less fortunate in a material or materialistic sense. And this is Hank's writing room. Very simplistic. This is the room in the house where I left it like he liked to be, sort of like his own space completely. It's sort of like the way he had his place when he lived on Carlton Way in East Hollywood. It was a mess, but he felt comfortable in that environment. And so the only thing I'd do in here occasionally would be dust, and that's it. So this is his room, and I haven't changed it since he died. And it's pretty much the same. It's yellow because it's his favorite color. Always. It reminded him of the sun. And I think he had some strong affinity with sun, the sunshine and sun. I think he felt the life force, the life energy thing happening intuitively, not philosophically or spiritually. He just felt the sun gave him life energy somehow. He wrote because he had to. That's what he said. And it was words which were simple that can be appreciated. But he didn't ever think of himself, I'm the creative writer, this and that. He wouldn't act as if he was a writer. He was just Hank, and he would be preferred to call a good horse player than a writer, I think. Internally, I think he was extremely balanced, quiet being. But because of the physical existence in this life, he reacted early on. For many years, he reacted. He reacted emotionally. He reacted childishly. We all do, but extremely so. Because of his intense childhood, he was in pain all the time. He didn't go blubbering about it or complaining about it. He just knew it. He knew it, and didn't hide the fact in his writing. He didn't cover it up. Because he felt himself that he was always walking on the fine line, on that razor's edge in his own existence. And because of that, he respected other people and understood and empathized with people who were also going through the dark periods of their lives. And so a lot of people from prisons and mental hospitals would write letters to him, and I think, and then he'd get letters back from these people that said, because of you caring about me and writing me just a few short lines, it's changed my life. And they were so appreciative, and those were the favorite people for him to talk to and write to. It was a struggle because he was very aware of the falseness of human beings, and he didn't appreciate it, and he had no time for it. So he had to learn to live that way without killing himself in the process. But he did drink a lot because of that, because of his own awareness of not only his own suffering, but just human sufferings. And like in one of his poems that he wrote, brilliant words, people are not good to each other. People are not good to each other. And once again, the simple truth. And he was so sensitive to that. He had a very feminine sensitivity and awareness and emotional consciousness, which he would never say like that, but his sensitivity was profound. His awareness of the suffering of all sentient beings, not just humans, but the forces of nature and animals and everything else. He was a pacifist. when Hank was getting more well known, especially in this country, Who's Who of magazine, or it's not a magazine, it's a big publication of all the people who've made it in one way or another, great industrialists, CEOs, artists, musicians, etc., scientists. And so they asked him to be in Who's Who, and you fill out all the biographical information and so forth. And then at the end they say, if you like, we would appreciate it if you would tell us basically in a few words what your philosophy of life is in essence. And well, we had a copy of the Who's Who. They sent us a copy to see what it looked like of a previous edition. And we looked in there, and you could see these industrialists and these different people, and they'd write huge, long paragraphs of what it was to be in their idea, what life meant to them, or on and on and on. So Hank simply wrote, "Don't try." And to me, I believe that he means don't try. Do. If you're trying, you're trying. That isn't it. The thing to do is to do. If you're spending all your time trying to do or trying to be, you're not it. It's not happening. It's a projection of something that isn't real. And don't try, I think, pretty much means just be. Just be. I'm sitting in this chair, which I don't usually sit in, because it became, towards the end of Hank's life, it became the chair where he meditated, and which might sound very odd to people who have read Hank's early books and would never imagine him somebody to meditate, but he actually did take classes in transcendental meditation about 6 months before he died. And for some reason, he truly accepted it. He submitted himself to that in a way that was very positive in his life and so beautiful. And when he was here and not in hospital, he went into remission for several months. And for 20 minutes every day in the morning, and then 20 minutes again in the evening, he'd sit and meditate. Every now and then I'd just glance over. I'd never stare or anything, but I'd sort of glance over and I'd sense this amazing presence. Almost, and I know it sounds a little, but almost an aura about him at those times, an aura of peaceful acceptance. I'm so happy that he permitted himself to be that way in his life. I think it just enhanced his precious heart and soul in a very external way in this world. It's like, well, there's a musician and a writer called Pete Townsend from The Who, a rock band, and he wrote a song, Empty Glass. And he talks about an empty glass pertaining maybe to wine, but it pertains to the heart. And if you empty your heart of all of the things, you open it up for love to be in there. And he did that. Hank did that in his life. And it was so beautiful to see him be there, because he had not gone there all his years. He hadn't allowed himself, he hadn't let himself do that. And that's all.